A young woman was stranded on a desolate island, starving for the past 10 days. After searching desperately, she finally found a sea snail, but when she cracked it open, her heart sank. The flesh inside was completely filled with sand. Still, driven by hunger, she forced it into her mouth. The moment she bit down, the rancid taste of raw, spoiled meat made her gag violently, and she vomited everything out. That's when she turned her head and spotted a young man sitting nearby. In front of him sat a plate of fresh fish, which he was carefully dipping into some kind of special sauce before eating. The girl realized that if she wanted to survive, she'd have to use a different kind of strategy. She started swaying her hips seductively, walking back and forth in front of him, trying to catch his attention. Within moments, the young man called her over. But then he made a strange proposal. She'd have to kiss him first. The girl thought for a second. What did she really have to lose? So she leaned in and gave him a sweet kiss. After that, the girl picked up large chunks of fish and began eating. From that day forward, they became dependent on each other. The young man, who was exceptionally skilled at fishing, would catch more than enough every time, and the girl would help him prepare it. Together, they built a small shelter that could protect them from wind and rain. Gradually, the girl found herself drawn to him. Even when they slept, they'd unconsciously move closer to each other during the night. But then something happened that changed everything. One day, while the young man was out fishing as usual, he found a man lying unconscious on the beach. He rescued him and brought him back to their shelter. The moment the girl saw this man, she ran toward him like a mad woman. From their behavior, the young man immediately understood. They were husband and wife. A strange ache filled his chest. Meanwhile, the man who had just escaped death, his name was Jack, grew suspicious of Manuel and his wife Jennifer, who had been living alone together on this deserted island for 10 days. He couldn't shake the feeling that something must have happened between them in his absence. Jack had a lighter with him, so he started a fire. When Jennifer and Manuel returned and saw the flames, they were overjoyed. Finally, they wouldn't have to eat raw meat anymore. But Jack turned to Manuel and warned him to stay away from his wife. Manuel didn't defend himself. Instead, he generously shared his food with both of them. But Jack didn't thank him. Instead, he tore their shelter apart and divided it into 2 sections. One of the sections was so poorly constructed it was practically uninhabitable. Manuel couldn't take it anymore and got into a heated argument with Jack. He even swore he wouldn't catch fish for them anymore. After Manuel left, Jennifer told Jack he needed to apologize immediately because surviving even 3 days on this island without Manuel would be impossible. But Jack stubbornly refused and dragged Jennifer along to search for food himself. He was determined to prove he could take care of his wife on his own. But he soon faced the consequences. Without a diving mask, they couldn't go into deeper water. They could only gather a few crabs from the island to satisfy their hunger. Unfortunately, most of the creatures there were poisonous, and Jack ended up vomiting violently. Meanwhile, Manuel was catching large fish almost every day. Sometimes, he'd secretly give some food to Jennifer. In return, Jennifer secretly gave him her husband's lighter to help him out. But Jack found out quickly. Believing Manuel had stolen his lighter, Jack punched him in a fit of rage, knocking him to the ground. Finally, he took Manuel's food as well. That seemed to settle things, for now. But Jack's eyes were now fixed on Manuel's diving mask. One day, while Manuel was sound asleep, Jack snuck over to his shelter, grabbed the diving mask hanging there, and excitedly jumped into the deep sea. But he never imagined this would become the biggest mistake of his life. When Manuel woke up and realized his mask was missing, he headed straight to the ocean to confront Jack. When Jennifer saw what was happening, she tried to stop Manuel, but not only did she fail, she ended up becoming a victim of his desires. At first, Jennifer tried to resist, but somewhere deep down, she had developed feelings for Manuel. Soon enough, she surrendered herself to him. Hours later, when Jack returned, he tossed the diving mask toward Manuel and claimed it had blown to the other side. Manuel knew the truth but stayed silent, staring at him coldly. When Jack returned to the shelter and looked at his wife, it didn't take him long to figure out what had happened. He exploded in anger. Jennifer tried to explain that she only did it to save his life. Otherwise, Manuel would have killed him in his rage. But Jack wouldn't listen. He grabbed her by the hair and threw her toward Manuel, vowing silently that he would make Manuel pay a terrible price, if not today, then tomorrow. Jack was starving. He hadn't eaten properly in days, so now he had to do something. First, he broke a glass bottle lying on the shore. Then he rubbed a piece of it against a rock until it was smooth. Next, he heated a plastic water bottle over the fire until it became soft. Seizing the moment, he pressed the bottom of the bottle upward and tied it around with a leather strap. This way, he created a makeshift diving mask. Now he could see underwater and had a small glimmer of hope for survival. Wearing his homemade mask, Jack immediately grabbed his spear and jumped into the ocean, determined to catch a big fish. While swimming underwater, starving and desperate, he suddenly spotted a small sunken boat in the depths. The moment he saw it, he forgot all about fishing. He immediately dropped his spear and used all his strength to try and flip the boat. But his disappointment was crushing. There was a huge hole in the bottom that couldn't be repaired. Then suddenly, a terrifying idea struck him. He placed his diving mask and spear inside the boat, slung a rope over his shoulder, and began dragging the boat through the water with sheer determination, defying all logic. Soon, he was running out of breath and oxygen. He had to let go of the boat and quickly surface for air. But surprisingly, he didn't give up. Taking a deep breath, he dove back down and continued pulling the boat toward shore. After immense effort, he finally succeeded in dragging it out of the water and onto the beach. Seeing this, the other two ran over to help, but despite being utterly exhausted, Jack didn't want them anywhere near the boat. He dragged it further away and began trying to patch the broken section with something sharp. The strange thing was, he knew that no matter how much he repaired it, the boat couldn't cross the ocean. His stomach was growling with hunger, yet he continued working with intense focus and seriousness. By the next day, he had sealed the hole with a plastic sheet and even created a retractable sail. Amazingly, his hard work paid off. The boat was actually fixed. Seeing this, Manuel panicked because before getting stranded on this island, he was just a lowly employee on a ship. If Jack really managed to go back and get help, he wouldn't spare him. The next day, while Jack was out fishing, Manuel and Jennifer made a plan to steal his boat and escape. Within moments, the two pushed the small boat to the shore. Jack spotted them immediately, but because of the distance, he couldn't stop them in time. By the time he reached the shore, Manuel had already taken Jennifer with him and was drifting into the open ocean. The strange thing was, Jack had now lost his chance at survival. He was trapped on this island forever. Yet there wasn't even a flicker of despair on his face. Instead, he sat down on a chair with an odd smile and watched the boat drift away. Both of them were confused by Jack's bizarre behavior. At first, they thought he'd gone mad with rage, but soon Jennifer realized something was wrong. That's when they both noticed Jack hadn't actually repaired the boat at all. It was going to sink in just a few moments. To save themselves, they both jumped into the sea and swam with all their strength toward the island. Meanwhile, Jack set fire to the shelter they had worked so hard to build and calmly ate his grilled fish, showing no sense of urgency. On the other side, Jennifer and Manuel were completely exhausted from swimming, but they didn't give up and somehow made it back to the island. The moment Jack saw Manuel reach the shore, he immediately grabbed his fishing spear and tried to attack him. Although Manuel was strong and fit, hours of continuous swimming had drained every ounce of energy from his body. The spear struck, and Manuel let out a painful scream, falling straight into the ocean. Jack followed right behind him and thrust the spear deep into his chest. Within moments, the seawater turned red with blood. Manuel's story ended right there. After that, Jack tied up Jennifer and punished her harshly. Jennifer realized that to survive on this deserted island, she had no choice but to obey Jack. Fear and submission were clearly visible in her eyes. Sometime later, Jack forgave his wife for her betrayal. They both built another small shelter on the sand and resumed their hard, laborious life together. Working day and night, they began living a simple but secure existence. Much later, a tourist arrived on that deserted island. At that moment, Jack was out in the sea fishing. Jennifer never imagined in her wildest dreams that someone would come. She jumped out of the shelter in excitement. The tourist helped her into his boat. Jennifer felt both happiness and exhaustion at the same time. After who knows how many months, she finally ate a full meal today. Just then, Jack lifted his head from the sea and saw the tourist's boat passing by. That's when he spotted Jennifer sitting on the boat. He called out to her desperately, but Jennifer didn't pay any attention to Jack at all. She also took Jack's lighter with her. Jack kept calling out to Jennifer, but she slowly disappeared from his sight. So why do you think Jennifer left her husband to die alone on that deserted island? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.